Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we are exploring a classic favorite, especially for beginners, the 4-move checkmate, also known as the scholar's mate. Imagine winning a chess game in only 4 moves. That's pretty thrilling, right? Now, while this 4-move checkmate can be exciting, I want you to remember that it is not something that works on experienced players. This video isn't about the quick win, it's about learning the why behind moves and understanding the importance of piece coordination in the opening. So even if you never use this opening in a serious game, the ideas will help you to improve as an overall player. So let's start. So we are playing with white and we are going to start the game by playing pawn to e4. What is the idea behind this move? We control the center by pushing the pawn to e4 and we also cover the square of d5. So we are already covering 2 center squares out of 4, which makes sense, right? And we are also allowing our pieces to develop more easily. For example, by pushing the pawn to e4, I allow my pieces like bishop and queen to develop easily. And I also allow my knight to develop easily like knight to f3. So this is the idea behind pushing the pawn to e4, or you can say many people would like to play d4 in the higher level because the idea still remains the same. It allows the bishop and the queen to develop easily. So whenever you are starting the game of chess, you should always try to first control the center, which helps your pieces to develop easily like bishop, queen and the knight. So for example, after e4, opponent kind of copies our move by playing the move pawn to e5, mirroring our move. What is the idea? The idea still remains the same. Black is also covering the center and also allowing his pieces like bishop and queen and knight to develop easily, like bishop c5, maybe bishop to b4, and he can basically develop the pieces easily. And now after e5, we are going to play the move queen to h5. What is the idea? After queen h5, we are attacking the pawn on e5 and f7. But at a first glance, it kind of looks like a dubious move. Why? Because generally, developing the queen out early in the opening is already a bad idea. Because the opponent can simply develop his pieces and attack the queen, and we have to drop out the queen back. And now black is already, opponent would already be better. So it's already not a great idea. But in this particular case, after queen h5, we are kind of attacking the pawn on e5 and also putting some pressure on f7. Because the only defender of the f7 pawn is the king. Yeah, so the f7 pawn is kind of a weak spot. So currently the e5 pawn is attacked. So let's say opponent plays knight to c6, developing the piece and also protecting the pawn on e5. And now we are going to jump in with a bishop, developing the bishop at a very nice square and also now threatening a very strong move, capturing on f7, and that would be a checkmate. And you won't believe it, but if you are playing against a beginner, he won't actually realize it. And maybe he's going to simply play something like knight to f6 or d6. For example, let's play knight to f6, which kind of makes sense. Black is developing the piece and black is also at the same time attacking the opponent's queen on h5. Though he has simply missed this idea of white that now we can simply checkmate his opponent king by playing queen into f7, and that's the game over. That's how easily you can simply checkmate your opponent. So yeah, let me just give you a quick recap. White pushed his pawn to e4, controlling the center, which allowed his pieces to develop easily. And now he used this idea as an opportunity by developing his queen, attacking the e5 pawn. Opponent protected it, and now he developed his bishop, attacking the pawn on f7. But now many times your opponent will simply miss this idea, and he will simply go with a natural developing looking move like knight to f6. And he simply fell for this idea like queen into f7. So this is a kind of a very small idea, a plan that you should always execute in the game of chess. You should always play a move with a particular idea or plan. So okay, this is how this particular checkmate works. Now let me show you how you can actually defend against this mate whenever your opponent is going to play this against you. So for example, we are playing with black and opponent plays 1 e4. Controlling the center, we play e5, controlling the center back. Opponent develops the queen, attacking the pawn. Now, developing the knight makes sense because we are developing our piece, protecting the pawn. And now, opponent jumped with the bishop, attacking the pawn on f7. And now, at the place of, we already know that opponent's idea is to checkmate our king on f7. So, developing the knight like this or d6 won't be any help. So, how can I stop the checkmate on f7? I can simply play the move like g6, simply attacking the queen on h5. And now, for example, the queen simply drops back. And now many of the players would think, okay, the queen went back and now let me develop my bishop like this. But guys, this is once again a big blunder. Opponent can once again capture the f7 pawn and threaten a mate to the black king. So like with each and every move, you should try to understand what is the idea, a logic behind the opponent's move. You should always try to consider that. So after queen f3, we are already aware the opponent is attacking the pawn on f7. So now there are multiple ways to defend the pawn. We can play queen e7, which defends the pawn. We can play queen f6, trading off the queens and defending the pawn. Or we can simply play knight to f6, just breaking the connection, because now the knight is in the way. And now after knight f6, like for example, many players would like to play something like g4, going all in. What is the idea? The idea is to play pawn to g5, attacking the knight. And if you move the knight from the f6 square, for example, let's suppose we play something like bishop to g7, developing the bishop, and now the idea is to simply short castle. Makes sense. But now opponent will simply push the pawn, attacking the knight, and we would think, okay, now the knight is hanging, let me move my knight. But guys, this is once again a big blunder. We are still getting checkmated on f7, and now white will simply checkmate us. That's how the game is over. So going back a bit, okay, we understand the opponent's idea is to play g5. So there are two ways to stop any idea of our opponent. We can either defend it, or we can go for a counter attack. There are always two ideas. So to stop this idea, to defend against it, we can play something like h6, which kind of stops white from playing g5. And now black can play something like bishop g7 short castle, and black's fine. But the most aggressive approach, I would say, is to go for the counter attack. How? So white's idea is to play g5. So I would now try to look for ways to attack the queen or the bishop. Can I somehow attack the queen in this position? I think I can. I can jump in with my knight to d4, like this, knight to d4, attacking the queen. And not only I'm attacking the queen, but I'm also putting pressure on the pawn on c2, which will attack the king and which will attack the rook as well. So white have to defend this pawn with his queen, because the queen is also attacked. So white goes back with the queen, maybe like let's say queen to d1, defending the pawn on c2 and also defending the pawn on g4, and also preventing black from capturing white's queen. But now what we can do here is, we can already capture the white's pawn on e4 with the knight, because now this pawn is unprotected. And now what is happening? Now black is having full control of the center, because now he's having two knights in the center, one pawn in the center, and black is already totally winning in this position. Yeah, so how can now black continue the position? It's pretty easy. Now black can play d5 on the next move, controlling all four center squares, develop his pieces with bishop g7, short castle, safeguarding the king. And then, as we can see, white's king is already weak. We can simply target the f2 pawn. Queen h4 now. f5, capturing on g4 and threatening mate on f2. It's a very dangerous attack. So white's idea, going for a 4-move checkmate, went all wrong, and black simply destroyed it. So this is how you should play the game of chess. This is exactly how you should play the game of chess. You should, first of all, let me take you to the full recap. You should always try to first control the center, allowing your pieces to have more space to develop more easily, more freedom. You develop your pieces, and now you should understand what could be the idea of your opponent, of each and every move. Then only you should try to make your move, not by playing like anything. You should have a logic, a plan against every move you play. So here, your opponent's idea is to checkmate you. So you block it by playing g6. You defend it. You do not attack, but you defend it. The queen goes back, and now we see that once again, white is attacking the f7 pawn, threatening mate. So now we play not the bishop g7, but knight to f6, defending the mate. And now white goes g4, going all in with the idea of g5, attacking the knight. So what do we do? There are two ways. We can defend or we can go for counter attack. Obviously, we would love to have counter attack. So we simply play the move, knight to d4, attacking the queen. The queen drops back, and now we simply capture the pawn. And that's how we do it. So that's how this whole combination of ideas opening 4 moves checkmate works, and this is how you can defend against it. So I hope that this video has helped you to improve your knowledge about chess, overall chess understanding. If it did, then make sure to like and follow. I'm going to come up with these more chess tutorials like this. So till then, stay tuned and bye bye.